And yes, state and local is alive. And I have my first guest in the candidate series. This is Mark Edwards. He's running, well, actually unopposed. Is that right, Mark?
Well, actually less than unopposed. There's 2 spots available, and I'm just running for one of them.
And so, but he was courteous enough to come on with me. I've extended invitations to everybody, and I haven't only heard from some people, but I've got Mark here today. Now, Mark writes books, and he's going to be coming on with me on Norfolk Notables shortly. But so now, tell me, how long have you lived in town, Mark?
Let's see. My oldest is 18, so 20 years.
So good long time.
Yeah.
And now, you are a stay-at-home dad?
I am, yeah.
And you write these books at home.
Mm-hmm.
You've written one book, actually.
Well, technically I've written about 4 books, but all the rest of them are in, 3/4 of the way finished, all the way finished, but I haven't edited yet. And with kids, I just haven't gotten back to it, which is my own laziness. So,
how did you get started with that?
Actually, I was in a doctoral program, and I'm ABD as far as psychology goes. I have a master's degree in clinical psychology, actually 2 master's degrees in clinical psychology. But I would travel up to my school, which was Antioch, which is about
in Ohio.
2.5 hours. No. Up in New Hampshire.
Oh, and what's the name of the school there?
Antioch, New Hampshire, New England. God, it's been so long since I've been there. Antioch School of Professional Psychology.
Oh, okay.
It's associated with Antioch in Ohio, but not.
Oh, it is.
Yeah, I think I'm pretty sure.
Now, do you get a PhD with that or a PsyD?
You are very smart. It's a PsyD, actually. Yeah. I'm not a researcher. That's not my area of interest. I wanted to be a psychologist and do therapy.
Can you still do that now with the credentials you have?
Mm-hmm. Yep.
But you don't.
No, I don't.
Yeah. Well, why did you gravitate towards the writing rather than the clinical work?
Well, it's kind of a weird story and kind of brings us back to why I'm in
I hope I wasn't too nosy.
No. I think it actually segues really well. Because I had a 2-hour drive, I would think about stuff. And the stuff that I would think about is I am one of those original gamers. If you've heard of Dungeons and Dragons.
Yes.
I played it back in like 1979 and never stopped playing. I'm an old man as far as that goes.
So is it that old and it's still popular?
It's actually a generation before me, because there were the people who did the war games where they take the little miniatures and move them around the table.
Yes.
They're really the first, and then I'm the first generation that's just played role-playing games. So anyway, I would think about, because I have a group that I play with here at my house every week. And so I think about, what am I going to do this week? What's going on? That kind of stuff. And I noticed that having this 2.5 hour drive let me really think about the things that I wanted to say about these. And that kind of segued into, what would the story be if I didn't have the players, if I could make the story myself? And that's actually where the book came from. I had written this campaign for the players, and I think they liked it. I think it was too complex for them.
Now, say again, you wrote what for the players?
I write adventures for the players. I'm what they call a game master, so I kind of run the world, and then they play.
Within the Dungeons and Dragons setting?
Yep. Huh. Although we weren't playing Dungeons and Dragons, so it's I just use Dungeons and Dragons because most people know Dungeons and Dragons. If I said we were playing GURPS, you'd go, what is GURPS?
It's a totally new game that you created?
No. Actually, there are thousands of different role-playing games that exist now. GURPS actually came out as a reaction to Dungeons and Dragons, in that it wasn't, I'm going to say this because it's going to sound weird, but it wasn't realistic enough. There were there were things about the mechanics of the game that just didn't make a whole lot of sense.
Dungeons and Dragons.
With Dungeons and Dragons. And so a guy named Steve Jackson said, I think I can write something better. And he did. So what his game, it's actually an acronym for Generic Universal Role-Playing System. So it basically utilizes any game can be plugged into it. It's just a set of rules. And it has its own limitations, so I won't get into that. But anyway, so that was the game that we were playing, and it was the genre of it was 1930s serial cliffhangers, from
like your book.
Exactly, it actually was
noir. It's a noir.
Yes, exactly. And so I thought more about it, and then I was like, well, the players keep messing things up. How can if I were going to write the whole thing, what would it look like? And that's where the book came in. And it's really the first of probably 9, I would guess, that I'm going to write. And I haven't gotten back to it, but I need to. But yes, that's the first book. So, and that's kind of leads me into why I chose to be in the Recreation Commission is I'm a nerd. I'm a big fat old nerd. And I've always been that way. And so
I think I'm married to one.
Well, then So yeah, my wife had never understood any of that stuff, but now she can tell you anything about Marvel Comics because I also collect comic books, and so yeah, as she's fond of saying, we have Marvel Comics bed sheets, and so now she never has to buy me another present in my whole life because she got those.
You're content with that. Where in the world did she? You must have gotten that online.
Oh yeah.
Let me ask you something. What is the fascination with the medieval theme?
That's not my fascination.
Well, I met with Dungeons and Dragons.
Oh, well, it's knights and maidens and
a lot of fantasy
and monster. Yeah, it's classic. Never goes out of style. My particular favorite is swashbuckling. I love pirate stories and the Three Musketeers. You tell me there's something about that, I'm all in.
Now, do you watch those on Netflix, the old ones?
Oh yeah. I actually own most of them on DVD because
they're not easy to find. Those older ones, are they?
Well, I've gone so far as those are easy to find in general, because especially now with Netflix and that kind of stuff bringing stuff out. I look for foreign stuff. My favorite story is actually, famous swashbuckling story is actually not American. It's French, and they have subtitles for it. But
which one is that?
It's called Brotherhood of the Wolf.
Really?
Yeah. It's really cool. This Frenchman, he's the king's royal taxidermist. He and his blood brother, who's a Native American, they go to this small town called Gévaudan.
It takes place in Native American. It's somebody from the United States.
The Native American, who's his best friend, because he went over to
met him.
And so they're searching for the beast of Gévaudan, which is apparently a real thing, historical thing. It was some kind of wolf creature that was attacking the citizens. So it's there. How do they find it? And of course, it turns out to be something completely different than what they're thinking. And
is it silent or is it?
No. It's modern. I think it came out in 2000. I want to say 2008 or so. And then it goes crazy because, of course, the Native American guy knows martial arts, and you're like, wait a minute, that doesn't make any sense. But it's so much fun, and it has all the tropes that you expect.
Tell me something. I've got to admit, that is a word that I am not sure of the meaning. What is a trope? Is it sort of an element that sort of an iconic element?
Yeah, exactly. In the medieval fantasy, the trope is that there's always the young hero who saves the maiden, and so it's a trope that I don't particularly like. So I often will either flip it on its head, or actually Shrek did that really well. He goes to save the maiden, but she doesn't really need saving.
Now, have you read, your pronunciation, I used to teach French. I have a master. And your pronunciation is very good. Have you ever read any of those old, like Tristan and Isolde? Have you ever read those translated?
I actually
You
don't
might
speak any French at all,
I mean,
surprisingly
translated.
enough. I have
No
read
English.
some translated stuff. Actually, I have the book right over there if you want to see it, but it's not. I hate to say this, I'm worried I'll offend you, but France was never my favorite. Spain was my favorite. There's
I know. French can be just terrible. It's kind of a shame, but they're just Spain is a fascinating, wonderful place. Very mysterious and
way underrepresented in that kind of swashbuckling.
yes.
And to me, they're ripe for it. Why don't they do more? But actually, the author that I was thinking of, who's been translated, the reason he wrote the book, the first of the books that he wrote, was because his daughter was doing a history report on the what was the Spanish king?
Well, there was Philip, who was
Philip II. Yes. So she was doing a report on that, and they got into discussions about the Three Musketeers, and he realized no one has ever done a Three Musketeers-esque story but for Spain. And so he wrote this book. It's a series now called Captain a la Triste. If you want to see it, I can run and go get it.
I wouldn't mind, actually. I wouldn't mind seeing that, because that's something I never...
It's literally that quick for me to find it. This is it.
Oh, Arturo Pérez Reverte, Captain a la Triste.
Yep.
Oh.
Which I don't know
Triste means sad.
Yes, exactly, and that's one of the jokes that they make is the villainous character of this series. She keeps calling him sad. So.
Well, now, what about Don Quixote? Oh, excuse me, go ahead.
He added historical stuff in there. So, who wrote Don Quixote? I'm terrible with names.
Oh, God help us. Well, this is sad because I also have a master's in Spanish.
Well, anyway, he's not in this story, but several of his contemporaries are, like
Cervantes.
Okay, so the guy that wrote that painted there's a battle, the surrender at Breda. Is that correct?
Well, Breda actually exists, doesn't it?
Yes, and there's a painting of their surrender. In real life, there's a horse over on the right-hand side that they have done x-rays, and they found that there were several other human figures underneath the eventual horse.
That's called a pergamento, isn't that?
Yeah, exactly.
Well, I think so. Oh, I think that's the right word. Yeah.
So he said the whole story is that one of those figures is Captain Alatriste, but he and the painter fell out, and so he painted over Alatriste.
Oh.
And so there's just everything in this book. Like one of my favorite things is they introduced the villainous Milady de Winter. In this book, Milady de Winter is, I think she's 11 years old, maybe 10. She's a real young girl. And our main character, who's not Captain Alatriste, it's his...
Oh, sorry about that. The spirit of Alatriste here.
I have to close the door or the dog will come in and jump on me. So anyway, his name is Inigo. And Inigo Balboa. And here's the interesting thing. There really is an Inigo Balboa. He became the captain of the guard for Philip II, and it's the same character.
Huh.
So anyway, he mentions seeing her for the first time. She's in a carriage. She's driving past him, and all he does is, whoops, he sees her in silhouette. And he says, when I saw her there with her beauty and that kind of stuff, I fell instantly in love with her. And I loved her through the good times and the bad. When she stabbed me, when she asked for help, I loved her right up until the moment I killed her. Whoa! I have to read this story immediately. It was so, that moment was just, it just grabbed me. I'm like, I have to read everything that this guy's written.
That would draw you in, all right.
It did.
Are you familiar? I mean, I don't care for Japanese film myself, but I've seen a couple of Kurosawa's films. Aren't they also bandits and maybe not exactly pirates,
some are.
but
Samurai and that kind of stuff. Yeah, I love that too. One of my favorite, I got introduced when I was as a comic book. There's a series called Lone Wolf and Cub. And again, it's just like Alatriste, the authors used real history and kind of inserted characters in there. So the reason he's called Lone Wolf is because his name is Ito Ogami, and in Japanese, Okami is a wolf, and Ogami is their name, and so they made the association between them. And there really was an Ogami clan, and they disappeared, just wiped off the face of the map, and no one knows why. So what they've written is he's the shogun's executioner, which the Ogamis were, and the emperor's ninjas, basically their clan wants to get rid of him because they want to consolidate power. And this is a story about how he, trying to stay loyal to the samurai code, gets his revenge on the whole clan, because in actuality, about 2 years after his clan disappears, the ninja clan disappears too. And so the story is him killing them all off while maintaining his honor, so to speak.
Now, did ninjas exist a long time ago? I thought that was something relatively new.
No, they were basically the whole them wearing black and that kind of stuff. That's Hollywood. They really would dress like everybody else, but they were they would collect information about who's rebellious and who's still loyal to the emperor and that kind of stuff. That was really their job.
Huh.
I said emperor. What I should have said was shogun, because the emperor he's his own thing, and the shogun is the one that really is trying to maintain power.
My catches. Now, what is your interest in being in the rec department? Yeah.
Well, and that was the whole me being a nerd and this kind of stuff. Most of the people that I see who do rec department stuff, and this should be in no way construed to be a dig against them, this is the United States. We're interested in football and baseball, and those are wonderful pursuits. But we don't have anybody speaking for us nerds, and we have interest. We're not interested in that.
A lot of physical stuff, and
I mean, if we had motorcycle racing, I would watch because I love motorcycles. But
do you have any?
I do. I have 2 of them. Which I have not driven since the children showed up because it's just simply too dangerous. Yeah. And if you don't think so, I can show you the scar on my knee where I went down at 20 miles an hour, and it's a scar about that big.
Oh. What do you have what are the motorcycles that you have?
I have what they call crotch rockets. Basically, they're super fast bikes. They're both GSXR 750s. It's a Suzuki. The commercial I always think of.
Doing this, the cat's fur has gotten up on my face.
Well, I can't see it. You look fine. So anyway, the GSXR, the commercial I always think of to try and describe to people, the announcer comes on and he says, now, in order to drive the GSXR 750 on the street, if you're not on the track, certain modifications are required. You see the guys run out to the thing, and they bring up a license plate, and they bolt it on, and they say, now you can drive it. So basically, it's you can race it just as is. I think its top speed is like 153 miles an hour, which is way faster than I ever want to go.
Wow.
Yeah.
You want to think about maybe doing something on Norfolk Community TV with some of those because I mean you obviously speak you speak very very relaxed on TV and so forth, and there might be a show that you could come up with that would it wouldn't have to be interactive, I suppose, but I mean you're a clever guy, I'm sure you're I mean there's nothing like that on NCTV that I know of.
I would love to do that. Honestly, put me in front of the camera, and I'm happy as a clam.
Yeah, you can get in touch with the one who's not visible right now, but who's. And by the way, I just wanted to mention
Katie.
thank God for Katie Jefferson, because I could never have pulled this off myself. So she's there behind
And the screen.
The little lamppost there.
Yeah.
So to get back to what you were saying, I might kind of went off track there. So you were thinking about doing something with this type of these type of stories and occupations with.
Oh, you mean for the
yeah
record, right? Yes, that's why we're here to talk about that. The thing is that we have representation for all the other stuff. We don't have representation for
ad nauseum, to be honest.
Yeah. Which is fine, great. Yeah. It brings in a lot of money. I learned a whole bunch of new stuff about that kind of stuff. But we don't have anybody saying, hey, there are kids, a good friend of ours, her son is on the autism spectrum like my son, my oldest, and he loves trains. And she had to drive 6-7 towns over to find anybody that had anything to do with trains. My only issue is, and the reason why I'm running for re-election is I promised everybody.
Oh, you've already been on the board.
Yeah, actually, this would be my second time, assuming that
I get voted. Yeah.
And I ran on this same platform of I would like to do stuff that most people, the stuff that's falling through the cracks.
Yes.
And I said, if you got something that you're really interested in, and I will make this same thing, I'll give you my email address. If there's somebody out here who's watching it who says, well, Mark said that he would do this, but he never got around to it, or, gee, I wonder what else that he's got in mind, please email me. I'll find the way to do it. The only problem is that because I'm trying to do new stuff, I have to do it myself. So unlike most of the rec commissioners who just need to vote on stuff, I actually teach some of the classes.
So has something already appeared in the curriculum?
Oh yeah. I did.
I wasn't aware of that.
Oh, I'm so sorry. I put it on
for children, or which one?
Well, that's the other thing.
Catalog.
No. I'm sorry. Months ago. The first thing that I did was Introduction to Anime. You were mentioning that. I had 4, 5, 6 kids who showed up. My only issue was, and it was fine. I really had a great time doing it because, honestly, tell me you want to watch anime and I'll bring out my Studio Ghibli stuff and we're good to go. If you don't know, Studio Ghibli is, we have Walt Disney. Japan has Studio Ghibli. All the stories are stories that you absolutely can empathize with all the characters. Nothing.
A lot of prototypes.
Oh, it's such wonderful, wonderful stories, like heartbreaking stories too.
Huh.
And Hayao Miyazaki, he was in charge of it. He's retired now. And I don't remember if he's dead. I think he's still alive. He wrote most of these stories. One of the first ones is the one that I always show first, My Neighbor Totoro, which sounds weird, but the story is basically these 2 young girls, their mom is sick, so dad moves them to this little house to be closer to the hospital where she is. And they discover that there's a big banyan tree out behind the house, like huge, and spirits still live there. And if you know anything about Japanese animism.
I'm so sorry. I got all this thing on my nose. Sorry, go ahead.
If you know anything about Japanese animism, it's everything has a spirit.
Right.
And the girls very much do the things to thank the spirits. They honor them with gifts and that kind of stuff, and they basically they do everything right. And the story really culminates in the younger of the 2 girls tries to go visit her mom, which is 10 miles away, and she's going to walk there, and she gets lost. And so the older sister, who is our main character, she asks the spirit, Totoro, to help her find her lost sister. And I won't spoil it because just watching the whole them going together, but let's just say that they find her and they bring mom a little gift. It's a small ear of corn that has their names on it. And the thing is that as a child, it seems magical. It's wonderful.
Oh, yes.
And as an adult, when you watch it, you see mom, who this is probably taking place in, I would guess, the 50s, maybe earlier. Mom is in this hospital that all of the windows are open, which at first seems odd, but then we remember the whole
spirits.
No, it's not the spirits, but all the windows in the hospital are open because she's got tuberculosis. Back in the time when they thought fresh air was the thing.
Right.
So all of us adults watching it know that mom is going to die, but all the kids watching it think it's a wonderful, sweet story. It's just that complexity. I love stories like that.
Huh. So you actually have already, I totally missed those. I'm so sorry. Are they listed under the children? Under the children's?
Well, one of the things I also wanted to do was, I find that once they're about 12, there's nothing. I mean, unless they want to play baseball, there's no. So I don't put ages on my stuff because anybody can come watch anime. If you like it, great.
And now, so what do you have any future? I mean, are there any other future projects? Anything else that you're going?
I am. The next project, when we can get together, is Dungeons and Dragons. I don't know that I'm going to do Dungeons and Dragons because it's a little bit more complex than I'm going to try and find I've been looking at games that are superheroes for kids. And so the rules are very simple. The dice rolls are one die, you roll it, and you're good to go. And I would like to get to the point where I can get some help with other game masters running things so that we can have a little kids and maybe preteens and then adult but older kids. But that's really going to see how it works first.
Well, Katie will put your email. I'll give her your email. That's
sure.
That's the one that you gave me.
Yes.
How long have you used that?
15, 20 years.
Oh, really?
Yeah.
So that site with the pirates is old?
The site with the
pirates? That you got, didn't you?
Oh, they get the name from? Oh, yeah. It's really old.
Really?
Mm-hmm.
Huh. Well, so
yeah, it's just having the name Mark Edwards means that you're going to have Mark Edwards 86,972, and
right.
People can't remember that. But Blackjack Rackham, you can remember that.
It's true. So I'll have Katie put that on the bottom third, and I guess
yes, please, absolutely.
I guess she's listening, but she's not saying. So she'll do that, and but I think we're just about out of time here. But thanks very much for coming on. That was very interesting.
Absolutely,
fascinating to talk to you. Let me ask you a question about anime. Why do those characters sort of look like they're Eurasian?
In part. At least I think it has to do with the time post-war where the art started, and they tend to do idealized versions. And I think, certainly this is a simplistic answer, but I think that our having defeated them led them to kind of do some hero worshiping stuff. Hey, kitty cat.
Oh my God. Oh, you think that's it? Is that it?
I don't know if that's how it started, but it certainly
the
followed
eyes,
that kind of
hair color.
Yeah.
Isn't that fascinating?
Although I think it's jumped past that at this point. If you look at some of the newer stuff, but I was thinking of one of the other Studio Ghibli stories, which is, by the way, the most heartbreaking story I have ever watched. And if anybody's listening, only watch this if you're really prepared. But it's called Grave of the Fireflies. It's also by Studio Ghibli, and it will rip your heart out. It's just, I can't watch it without bursting into tears constantly. It is the best anti-war video show that I have ever seen.
But it's animated.
It is animated, and it has been done.
Grave of the Fireflies.
Yeah, Grave of the Fireflies. It's actually based on a true story. A gentleman who survived World War II wrote the book as an apology to the spirit of his sister.
A Japanese man.
Yes. It has been, I think they've done like 9 different movies of it, because it's very, very famous in Japan.
Oh, now, so you're going to come on Norfolk Notables, and I will talk about the act of writing.
Oh, sure. That would be awesome.
You know, because I think a lot of people might want to write, and they just think it's just, you know, and it may be beyond some people, but I mean, I think it would be a gift. But I mean, we could talk about that. I think that would be really kind of an interesting, because it's certainly, you know, I don't think there's too many people in town here that've written, to my knowledge, have written books. And I thought the graphics, by the way, and the illustrations were fabulous. Maybe you can bring those on. You'd have that part of the show.
I actually own the original, so I can, if you want to see it. It's huge. It's way bigger than the books.
All right. Well, thank you for coming on.
It was my pleasure. Thank you so much.
I'm so glad. And
I'm a little bothered that nobody else, like half of them, are going to do this. This is community. This is where it all happens. And I know that I'm not a big person. I'm just on the rec commission, but
most people don't even answer me.
Oh, I don't understand.
But I do it every year, and I've been doing it. I don't know how many years it's been now that I've been doing the candidates interviews. So,
well, thank you so much.
Thank you for coming on. I appreciate that.
All right.
And thank you for watching. Thank you for watching State and Local interview, this time with the candidate for re-election, Mark Edwards. You'll see his email there on the bottom third. And he's unopposed, so he'll be back in, which sounds like a good thing. And thank you again for coming on, Mark.
You're welcome. Thank you so much.
And goodbye. Bye-bye, everybody. Thank you, Katie.